This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This spring, Uber Eats has you covered. Whether you're celebrating mom, dad, or your favorite grad, not all of us are great planners, and with the Uber Eats gift hub, you don't have to be. Send flowers, perfume, champagne, or just their favorite meal straight to their door. Gifts arrive in as little as 25 minutes, and you can add a personalized video message for that additional so-not-last-minute touch. So this spring, get a leg up on gift giving with Uber Eats. Last-minute gifts that land every time. Must be 21 or older to purchase alcohol. Product availability varies per region. See app for details.
Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
This is the Overthrow, powered by Spond and brought to you by the Premier League Cricket Club. Welcome everybody to the Overthrow, powered by Spond once again. And joining me today, so you all know we've been doing the captain's table through the winter. We're making a bit of a change this time. We're doing the coaches table because we've got the head coach of Wales National County, but more importantly, he's back in Wales to play in the South Wales Premier League. Got Mr. Brad Wadlan, our old friend, playing back at Bridgend. How you doing, bud?
I'm very good, thanks. Thanks for having me again.
Absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute pleasure. So, come on then. Last time we actually saw each other face to face, you weren't smiling. Let's be blunt about this. You were coming off the pitch at Lord's, having been beaten in the national final, but now you've got a 10-minute drive round the corner from your house back to Bridgend. That's where the smile's at, isn't it?
That's exactly it. You've got me. No, you're right. I think really disappointing way to finish the season last year. Obviously, defeat in the national knockout final, but ultimately, I was so proud of the group to be able to get there and on those cup runs, and their special performances that the boys put in. So lots of memories from the last game, but absolutely delighted to be back at Bridgend. It's my home club. It's where I sort of grew up as a 13, 14, 15-year-old and started playing the game. So, and as you mentioned, it's 10 minutes away from home, so it's not far at all.
4 hours to Penzance, 4 hours back versus 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back. Almost a no-brainer, to say the least. But Bridgend actually didn't have a bad season last year themselves, did they? Came fourth in the league.
They did, and interestingly, I think if you look at how Bridgend went, they played St Fagans, who arguably are one of the strongest teams.
Yeah,
especially in the last sort of 20, 30 years in South Wales. They've played St Fagans 2 or 3 times, first game of the season, and they've been successful. They've won. So they've competed with one of the strongest teams that's played in the South Wales Premier League. They've got lots of very talented cricketers. It's about, I suppose, my job as head coach is just sort of gluing those things together and forming a bit more consistency throughout the season. I think the first half of the season, Bridgend won 8 of the 9 games and then sort of fell away towards late July, August. So naturally, we're really competitive. I think we've got a good balance of young players and some experience. So we're really excited to get going.
We get going on Saturday with the start of the Premier League. How disappointing will it be for you not to see our old friends at Swansea in the league, having been relegated last year? I mean, that we know is a difficult year for them. It's almost a transition season to a certain extent, but they're one of the big clubs not to be around, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And as you just mentioned there in your last sentence, I think it was very much a transition season with everything on the horizon. Moving out of St Helens, which is a great shame. But I think for the club itself, I don't think it's the worst thing to sort of rebuild and find a level of solidarity at the moment. And hopefully, I have no doubt that group of players and the young players coming through Swansea Cricket Club, they'll be back in Prem 1 in the short term, I think, because they've got a lot of very exciting things happening over the next couple of years. So fingers crossed it beds in, and the clubs can, merge together and push on to try and get back into Prem 1.
Absolutely. So looking around the South Wales Prem, I was had the privilege of being at St Helens for the first game of the season last year against Pontarddula. I'll be honest, I was surprised Pontarddula didn't push St Fagans even closer, because they looked bloody strong. Swansea didn't have the strongest side out that day, but everything about Pontarddula and Cam Herring's guys there, they just looked on it. Was that a bit of a surprise to you as well?
No, I think Pontarddula, so they're very. I think if you look in probably the last 5 seasons, they've been definitely in that top 4. There was one year they really pushed St Fagans. I think they finished runners up and really give St Fagans a good run for their money. I think what Pontarddula do very well is they've got some very, very good club players who have been around the block. Richard Grant is a very, very good player, and was signed at Glamorgan for a number of years. Cam Herring, obviously, Matthew Fisher. They've got a lot of very, very good players, but what they do really well is they bring through their own youth and their homegrown players. So I think that group of players have probably been together for a long, long time, and they've just merged together as a very good Premier League outfit. So it's not a surprise to me to see them competing every year towards the top. They do well at home. They're followed really well by their crowd and their fans, and it's a lovely place to go and play Pontarddula. So I think they're one of the clubs that I would say is a very competitive club, and a team you always know when you play are going to compete.
Absolutely. But obviously the most competitive last year by an absolute mile were Newport and St Fagans. 1 point between them at the end of the season. I mean, it just simply doesn't get any closer, does it?
No, it doesn't. And again, looking at the league table, I think those two were arguably the best 2 teams all throughout the season. I think both teams have got fantastic players. I think Newport were led very well by Harry Friend throughout the year, and he obviously had a good season as well. And it was nice it was nice, but it was good that was the final game of the season. It's a shame the weather curtailed what would have been a fantastic game of cricket, but it would have been a real good promotion for South Wales cricket if you were there at the ground to be able to watch that type of game.
Yeah, but then at the end of the day, I'm going to say, personally, St Fagans won because of 3 people. When you've got Stephen Reingold, Jeremy Lawler and Cam Nichols, 3 of the top 6 batters in the league, all at one club. That hasn't happened in a single other Premier League in the country last year. That was where they dominated, wasn't it?
It was, and obviously the 3 players you've mentioned there are high class quality cricketers and very good people as well. Yeah. You throw in, you've mentioned those 3, but then you throw in Owen Morgan and Rodri Lewis as 2 fantastic left arm spinners. I'm pretty certain that those 2 would be in the top 10 for bowling as well. So consistently throughout the year, they would take 25, 30 wickets. So when you got 3 guys in the top 5 for batting and 2 of your best spin bowlers in there as well, and you got an Ollie Sherwood who opens the bowl in and swings the ball both ways and is highly skilled, there's no you can see exactly why St Fagans are the team they are and why they're up the top.
Yeah, Owen and Rodri were both in the top 10 when it came to bowling, but above them were Salman Saeed and Mujahid Ilyas at Newport. And that's why I say I think it's having those 3 top 6 batters versus those 2 top 5 bowlers seem to be the difference in the end. Is there anything there in regards to, for people who don't know this, the tracks at St Fagans versus the tracks at Newport? And is that where the difference might be held sometimes?
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't know this, but a wild guess would be, you usually pick up your maximum batting points at Newport. Yeah. And bowling to take 10 wickets at Newport would probably be quite tough. Whereas at St Fagans, it would probably be easier to take the 5 wickets, but a bit tougher to score 250. So, both teams are very strong in different areas. And I think that's why last game of the season, being at Newport, it would have been a really good game to watch, because as you mentioned, the 3 St Fagans batters are outstanding cricketers, and if they batted at Newport every week, I have no doubt they would almost score another 200 runs maybe on top of what they got. So there is differences, but again, for the last 5 or 6 years, I think Newport, St Fagans have been in that title race in the top three for well over 5-6 years now. So they're the two sort of teams that have consistently been up towards the top end, and other clubs are trying to catch them up.
Absolutely. But obviously Pontarddulai and then yourselves at Bridgend going to be ones to push those two this year. And can't not talk about Usk and the returning Cam Hemp. You know, you've got him back for Wales, and, you know, he's come all the way back from Australia and come back to Usk again. That's got to make a difference there, hasn't it?
I honestly think the Premier League this year will be a lot stronger probably than it's been in previous years. I think you look at... like you said, Usk, there's a high chance people like Will Smale, Billy Root, Hempy returning. There's 3 quality batters. Hugo Caldicott, who's opened the batting for Usk in the last sort of 3 years, has had really, really good performances up top and has represented Wales national counties in the last 2 seasons. So he's pushing again. And they're led really well by Elliot Doyle. So I've no doubt Usk, they had a really good win, good chase in the national knockout on Sunday, chase down 270, 280. So they're going to be full of confidence. And yeah, I just think on paper, they've got a very good batting depth. So again, being able to chase 270, 280 shows where they are. And then other teams, you know, Penarth and Carmarthen have been promoted to the Premier League.
Yeah.
Penarth have got good links with the university. It's obviously, you know, a couple of miles outside of Cardiff, so no doubt they're going to recruit well. Carmarthen is a long way down west, but they know how to perform at home. They've got a very good record at home. Gareth Thomas is a very good leader and has scored a lot of runs for them over the last couple of years. And Owen Binding and Curtis Marsh, who's played Wales national counties as well. So I do think the league will be a lot stronger maybe than it's been in the last 2 years, 3 years. So yeah, lots of teams all are going to be excited for this weekend, I think.
Yeah, and I was going to say that about Carmarthen Wanderers. I mean, it's not quite as far as Penzance, but it is quite a way out west, to say the least, for you guys. The key for them coming up is to make that their stranglehold, isn't it? And to really have that home ground, as it's difficult to get to us compared to everywhere else. You're going to struggle here, and then they'll try and pick up points on the away games.
And that's it. And I think they're one of the teams from when Swansea were in Prem 2 and we went down to Carmarthen. It was a very difficult place to go and get a result. You know, their wicket's a little bit lower and slower, but they've got some very good cricketers who are used to those conditions and exploit those conditions better than maybe other teams that, you know, play on some bouncy wickets. And so, you know, it will be interesting, and it wouldn't surprise me if Carmarthen upset some of the big boys in that league when they go down there, because they'll get that stranglehold on and they'll pull really hard to try and scrap for every point they can. So I do think it's a pretty much an open league, and it will be fascinating come sort of August, the last couple of weeks, who's potentially in that lower 5, because I think it'll be very, very close this year. I wouldn't like to put my money on who potentially could be down towards the bottom, because I think everybody's fairly similar at the moment.
So you can almost see the league splitting into 2 groups of 5 to a certain extent then? Yeah,
potentially. I think, you know, naturally, St Fagans, Newport, Pontarddulai, Usk, those teams are going to be thereabouts in that higher region. But again, Ammanford have signed a Pakistan international who's a batter, so you never know. You know, Ammanford could, if he scores, you know, 500, 600, 700 runs, he could, you know, win Ammanford games. And Ammanford have got a, you know, decent bowling lineup as well. Their wicket's quite flat, small ground, high scoring. So it's very open, and I think that's how you're going to develop your younger players as well and make the league stronger, by getting stronger players into the league setup. And also the Glamorgan allocations could have a big effect on which teams stay up and which teams potentially, you know, are down towards the bottom at the end.
Yeah, definitely. Imran Butt joining Ammanford is one of the sort of the highlights of the transfer window in South Wales. And it's only been a couple of years since you guys have been allowed to bring overseas into the league. I see that signing as a sort of sign that clubs are now starting to stretch themselves a little bit further when it comes to bringing those players in.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I was massive for when I came back the first time from Penzance to Swansea, and I was on the league committee as a player rep. For probably 2.5 years, 3 years, I was pushing it massively for overseas, because I think we're very quick to send our young players over to Australia to experience something,
exactly,
and to do that. So why we don't then replicate that? Because I think it just creates links. And I mean, you look, this year, Cameron Hemp's at Usk, and Jack Hopel, who's just scored a brilliant 100 this week for the Glamorgan Seconds. He's been with Hempy at Paran in Melbourne all winter. So you can see the difference already in Jack. He's got 2 second team 50s and 100 already, and they've only played 3 games. So
yeah,
I just think it makes sense to get them over and to sort of help with coaching and to have them around the ground and to have, a different style and a different culture. I think you learn a hell of a lot from people. So I'm really pleased that we're able to get overseas players into our league. And also it helps in terms of when Wales teams go in the national knockout or in the T20 Cup, they compete against other teams that have those players. So yeah, it just makes the standard better all around, I think.
Yeah, because you were sort of operating with one hand behind your back that way.
Well, Swansea went to Bridgewater as winners of the Wales T20 Cup, and we came up against Bristol in the second game, in the area final, and they had a New Zealand overseas player. I think it was Curtis Heaphrey, who's averaging 50 now in first class cricket. He's played for New Zealand A. They had Josh Shaw play, Louis Shaw. They had a clique. They had a superstar team, and we were just the club side. We didn't have any overseas. We didn't have any Glamorgan allocation.
Yeah.
We managed to win, and then we went to Basingstoke and we played Harborne, who had Kai Smith. He opened the bat and he got 37 off 13 balls.
Yeah.
The overseas player took 3 wickets, and we managed to beat Harborne. And then we played Wimbledon, and they had 2 overseas players, 2 ex-pros, 2 current pros, and it was almost like a complete mismatch.
Yeah.
And our league chairman was there, and I remember saying to him, look, they've got 2 overseas players, they've got 2 pros. We haven't got our allocated players. We haven't got any pros because we're not allowed overseas. So I said it is a complete mismatch. So yeah, I'm really pleased that we are moving forward with the times and we're able to get overseas. It might take time to bed in, but I think in the long haul, I think it's a massive plus for Welsh cricket.
Yeah, and I think you just mentioned something that's come back to my mind there, that you also have this, what would I call it, this sort of strange thing where it's the previous year's winners go into the following year's T20 nationals. So you could end up, you could win win the Welsh T20 with an incredibly strong side, lose 4 players and still got to play in the nationals. That doesn't happen in a lot of the other counties around the country. So the imbalance is there again, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I think it's I think the reason for that is obviously the showcase day for T20s is always played in September at Safari Gardens. Yeah. So for the for club players in Wales, the opportunity to play at Safari Gardens is a real honour, and is a fair play to Morgan and the league for allowing that and for making that happen. So I completely understand that playing it the following year is almost, you could be 2 or 3 players light and you might not be as strong as maybe you were, but also on the flip side, you can know in the winter and pre-plan that, right, well, we're in the last 16 of the national T20. Yeah. How do we want to winter? Do we want to winter really well and focus on that, or are we, are we quite happy? So there's loads of pros and cons to it, but as you said, I think it's probably one of the only leagues that you would play the following year in the last 16 without playing a game.
It goes back to our old favourite, which we won't go on about today, but the fact that all the leagues are run differently, and it just makes it one arm behind one's back and one arm up behind another back for some people. So let's talk about that winter then. You've come back to Bridgend. What were the first things that you've sort of tried to put in place? It's not like we were talking about a badly run club because they came 4th last year in the Premier League. But what have you gone into Bridgend with and gone, right, let's change this up?
Well, yeah, interestingly, I think Bridgend is one of the clubs in the Premier League that hasn't been relegated since the Premier League started. So in terms of structure, I think it's a very well-run, organised club. very consistent in terms of players. They've had the same group of players for the last sort of 9-10 years. Lots of homegrown cricketers that have come through. I think for me, it was, and this is probably my, I would say one of my strengths is that being organised and structured in terms of training.
Yeah.
I think the players there are very, very talented. I mean, you got Aaron and Joseph, who the twins. Andrew Davis was captain at Bridgend when I was there. Joe's been playing a lot of second team cricket, and he's played for the Challengers and done really well in recent years. Aaron's at uni at Exeter, and he's been playing in their first team. So their cricket's just got stronger and stronger over the last couple of years. Luke Humphreys has come back from Australia after a winter away, and he started really well. He's got a 50 not out in pre-season and a 49 not out. So he's in very good form. And then Alex Jones is a senior player. He's in the top 3 wicket takers of since the Premier League's been going. He's high quality. Thomas Jones, another bowler who's played a lot of national counties cricket and is a very consistent performer. So I think they've got the players. It's more of trying to squeeze, that extra 5-6% out of each player, and then when we turn up on the weekends, that everybody's fully functioning, understanding what their roles are, and we try and give everything we've got on the match days, really.
Yeah, we had Thomas Jones as the 6th best bowler in the league last year. Sam Wood, the 9th best batter. I suppose the big argument there is to try and get another 1 or 2 into that top 10, and you can just see that makes the difference then.
Yeah, and look, Woody's been a fantastic cricketer for Bridgend for 9-10 years now, and he is the glue, I would say, of the Bridgend batting order. If the amount of time Sam has almost batted through a whole innings consistently, and he does that like on a regular basis. So he understands his game inside out. Obviously, he was captain last year, so I would see, without that added pressure on top of Sam, I actually can see Sam having probably a really big season this year.
That's interesting.
Which is good. And as I mentioned earlier, the allocations will be key. So we've been allocated Alex Horton, which, for Horty, it probably means we get to see him a bit more than maybe, we won't see Ben Kellaway, the current form he's in, but Alex Horton is an outstanding cricketer, still very young, but has been around for 5-6 years now as a Glamorgan pro, but he's still only 21, 22. So, which is incredible. So we're delighted to have him, and no doubt he'll add to our batting order. And Alex Pearson, who only played 5 games last year, but he's the Cardiff Uni captain. Well, he scored 140 for Cambridge. I'm pretty sure it was Cambridge last year in the last 3-day game. He scored 140. So we've got him for 8 games as well. So while he's at uni, so I think in terms of our team and our prep, we should be strong, but ultimately we play the game on the field rather than on paper. So it's just, for me, it's about matching up those things and making sure we're all aligned and moving in the right direction, really.
Absolutely. And those Glamorgan allocations, whilst they don't make or break the league, they can make a big difference, at some points during the season. It's one of those, I love the Glamorgan allocations. I think they do it really well. But as you say, Ben Kellaway's on a run right now. That means no one's ever going to see him. It's a bit of a 6 and 2 threes, isn't it? Because you want them to be playing well for Glamorgan, but at the same time, you want them to come to play for you guys. Yeah,
and again, you probably, certain teams aren't going to see their Glamorgan players throughout the year. So when the allocations come out, I think last year Bridgend had Kellaway and Ned Leonard. So there was a high chance that they weren't going to play many games, if any. Whereas, other teams, so Penarth this year have got Romano Franco. So there's a high chance Romano's going to bowl 10 overs every week. His batting's come on considerably over the winter. So they've almost... they've gained an all-rounder there who bats and bowls at a competitive level. Whereas if you're another team in the league and you've been allocated 2 Glamorgan players who are currently in the first team, but you're probably not going to have them early season. So, as I mentioned, Usk with Smaley and Billy Root, if they're not in the first team, well, Usk are going to have a seriously strong top 5 batting lineup. Whereas, the flip side of that is come the T20s, if Smale and Root are in Glamorgan's T20 plans from May to June, they probably don't see them then. So there are pros and cons, but how that gets managed, I guess, is down to Glamorgan, and ultimately they're Glamorgan cricketers, so they have the say on whether they play or not. So it's a bonus for us if they are playing in the league, and they definitely make the league stronger. But ultimately, it's obviously Glamorgan's call on how often they play and when they play.
Absolutely. So let's talk about leadership going through the season. Now you've got a completely different role this year. You haven't got to worry about on the pitch itself, although Brad Wadlan not marshalling people on the pitch, I'm trying to wonder how that's going to work. You're not captaining Bridgend, you're coaching there. Are you looking forward to letting that go a little bit and being able to just focus on your own game, as they say?
Yeah, and if I'm honest, that was a big reason for me moving back to Bridgend, I think. For the last sort of 10, 15 years, it's been constant of trying to strive to win things, trying to strive to push standards and drive standards forward. And I'll still do that at Bridgend, but do it in a much different way. So not being the captain, not being the guy who's telling people when to bowl and when not to bowl and what fields to set. Yeah. I think that naturally, with AJ, being arguably the best seamer in the league, and his experience and his knowledge of the game, I think me and AJ are the same age, and we grew up playing academy cricket, minor counties, second team. We played the same levels all the way through age group. So it's nice to actually go back to the club and sort of have Alex as a leadership role in that, and I can sort of help where needed. But my main focus is coaching, and I think the playing is starting to wind down almost now. I've had my sort of time playing. Naturally, I'll still want to do well and try and perform as well as I can. But I think the whole point of me going back to Bridgend was to sort of take a step, maybe 2 steps back, and just sort of go and play and enjoy it and try and help develop people on the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So come on then, in terms of developing people, let's talk about people to look out for during the season at Bridgend or around the league. And as always, we're always looking for those names that people don't know. I think you've mentioned one already that I'll be keeping a very close eye on, Mr. Romano Franco. Coming from North Wales down to South Wales. Couldn't get any more different when it comes to the pitches, to say the least. But I think he'll be really interested to watch. Give me a batter and a bowler at Bridgend or around the league that you say keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I think as a batter, I think I have mentioned him a little bit earlier. Jack Hopell. I think he's a very talented all-round cricketer, gun fielder, can bowl off spin as well. He's played at Newport for all his career. So Jack is someone who's come back from Australia, and I think he's really started the season well. Like I said, 250s in the second team and 100 this week. So he's someone that I think keep an eye on, that could be pushing to play Metrobank at the end of the year for Glamorgan.
Okay.
And in league cricket, I think he'll be probably at a stage now where he's the senior batter. He played for England under-19s last year at the end of the summer. Scored 130 for Wales in his first national counties game as well. So definitely someone there. In terms of bowling, there's a left-arm seamer at Bridgend, Joe Davis, who is thereabouts. I think he's probably 1 or 2 performances away from potentially catapulting himself into a first-class environment. For us at Bridgend, naturally we want him to be performing as well as we can, but also on the flip side, managing fast bowlers' workloads early season is a concern as well. So Tom Norton as an all-rounder is someone I think has all the attributes. I think he made his under-18 debut when I was coaching with the 18s, and he was 14, and scored an 80 on debut at Newport, and looked the business. And over the last couple of years, he's just developed and has gone back-to-back fifers in the second team, opening the bowling. So Tom Norton, he played 1 game in the Metrobank for Glamorgan last year, took 3 wickets. So as an all-round, I think Tom Norton's probably someone to really keep an eye on. Jack O'Bell as the batter, and probably Joe Davis as a bowler,
Great, we'll keep an eye on them, definitely. So come on, we've got to talk about the one thing that everyone doesn't like to give an answer to, but who's going to win it? If you had to put your money on and take your Bridgend cap off, where would you put your money on the top 2, or who's going to win the league this year?
Well, I think based on obviously recent years, the two that stand out are obviously St. Fagans and Newport. If you're a betting man and you probably want to try and get some interest back on an investment, Ponta de Lice wouldn't be a bad shout. Us potentially, depending on how much they see, Smailey and Billy. If Hempy hits the ground running as well, they could be a force to be reckoned with. I honestly believe Bridgend should be pushing in that direction with the allocated player with Horts, and our team on paper is just a case of, can we keep up that momentum through July and August, and hopefully start the season well and continue to build. I think just looking around the league, it's going to be a very, as I've mentioned, it's going to be a very competitive league, and I think it'll probably be the first year that St. Fagans and Newport might be chased, or people will be hunting them down a bit more than maybe in previous years. Yeah. And then, as I mentioned, that sort of towards the bottom of the table come August, it could be 6 teams trying to compete down the bottom, which makes the league very interesting, and results come August time could be really interesting with teams travelling back and forth. So
absolutely. Well, if you look last year, Innistor and Swansea did actually go down. I hate to say the word comfortably, but they went down quite comfortably in the end. But between sort of Cardiff and Usk in 5th place, there was only a couple of games, and that's the key, isn't it? There's only a couple of games difference there. It makes it quite a tight league.
It does, and with the distance as well, games being called off potentially in the east at Newport or Usk or Abergavenny, and then down west where the weather it might be slightly different. You might have teams like Ammanford, Carmarthen, Ponta de Lice all play, and teams in the east not get a game on, and like you said, it's 1 or 2 games then, and you're only a handful of points behind. So when it gets to that business end of the season, August, I think that's when you start to see those little things where the weather maybe plays a factor, or a game gets reduced by a certain amount of overs and you don't quite get your points that you were hoping for. So it does become really, really important then toward later in the year.
Very similar to Cornwall, surprise.
It is. Yeah, the west and the north is very different. Yeah,
absolutely. Hey, looking forward to seeing how you go in the league, but I can't let you go without asking the other one. Wales National County this year. It didn't start off the way you wanted last weekend, but I think the squad's quite intriguing this year.
Yeah, I look. We spoke about this all winter and on Sunday. I thought we bowled fantastically well. Restricted them to 216, and then with the top 5 were all Glamorgan signed pros, so we felt really comfortable in terms of 216 is a good score. They bowled well, and we lost wickets up front, but Rodri Lewis batted superbly, and Alex Russell, in fairness to Russ down the order, they put on a partnership and got us back in the game. I think we're building something which is quite good. I just think it's a case of now putting in those match-winning performances and learning to win games that we should win. Yeah, I think there's a thing of Wales consistently over a long period of time of lost games that they should win. And unfortunately on Sunday, it felt like another one of those. So I think once you learn how to win games and get over the line, I think those types of things, the best teams do that. And I think we're still in that transition phase of learning to finish games off and to get over the line. But it's a really exciting group. It's a young group.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think the more they play together, I mean, Ollie Rayner's at Loughborough at the moment. He's been exceptional with the ball. You've got Rodri Lewis's experience. You've got Alex Russell bowling really, really well. You've got Matt Marriott and Ollie Sherwood come into the party. It's just Hempy will be itching to go on Sunday and Monday this week. So look, I'm excited and looking forward to the season. Didn't start as well as we could, but there were lots of positives to take from last Sunday. So.
Yeah, and you said the young word, and that's right where I was coming. I think that learning to win and get over the line in those games just comes with age at the end of the day, doesn't it?
Yeah, and as I said, the average age in that team, if you take myself out, I think the average age is around sort of 22, 23, which is
very young.
Which is really, I mean, you look at some of the better teams or the stronger teams, your Oxfords, your Berkshires, your Hertfords, those types of teams. The average age is about 27, 28. So, we're trying to compete with guys who've probably played this level for a long time. But look, I have no doubt if we keep this group together for a couple of years, it will create something special. So yeah.
So of the three comps, which one are you going to target this year as the one that you think you can go the furthest in?
I think the 50 over comp at the beginning we would look at, because I think with it being groups of 5, you can win 2, lose 2, and still potentially get through. So obviously Dorset this Sunday, obviously the winners of that comp last year, they're a very strong side. Down at Wimborne's a high-scoring ground, so we've had some success down there in recent years in terms of scores. So hopefully the batters can get in and give our spin bowlers, especially in terms of Rayner, Lewis, and Russell, some opportunity to with runs on the board to force a bit of pressure. So hopefully that'll be the plan.
Fingers crossed. Hey, been great chatting as always, Brad. Great to catch up on everything, all South Wales, and obviously a little bit of Wales National County there. Big weekend ahead. Premier League starts, back-to-back games for Wales National County, and you don't have to worry about the big drive this time.
Yeah. I might get a lift this weekend, I think.
Absolutely. Hey, go well, mate. Have a really good season and look forward to seeing how you guys go.
Cheers. Thank you.